Hello, I'm John from Hudson. Today we're going to do a quick lesson on how to change a band wheel belt in the field on your sawmill. Obviously we're here in the warehouse setup, but I've got the mill broken down basically like you would at your sawmill or your location to change the band wheel belt. So, as you can see, we've already relieved the tension on the blade and we've removed all the guards because you got to remove all the guards to get your blade off. So first we're going to remove the blade. I have my assistant here helping me, Dan, so I'll take that blade out of the way. Next, we are going to take the drive belt off. You don't have to really loosen anything on these, you just run it right off with a wrench. If you want to come over here, we can get that in the video. Okay, go ahead, Dan. Take it right off, just run it right off, real easy. That step's completed. Just hang your belt here. Next, we're going to take the band wheel belt out of the pulley that's on the mill currently. So this has to be removed in order to put the new one on. So go ahead, Dan, and take that right out. And this is how you remove it. Get a fine tip screwdriver and just kind of tap it down in. Pry that belt up. Get your screwdriver under it. You hold the wheel from turning, it's a lot easier. And just run it right off like that. Now your belt's off, and you want to leave it bolted up because that stabilizes this to hold it. Next, you're just going to take these two bearing bolts out. You got to back up 1 second. So let me show them here again how we mark it. So in the field, you don't want to have to try and do a lot of re-leveling and re-straightening. So we've got marks. We know it's lined up and it was running true. We just know that the band wheel belt is worn out. So you take a square, run it right down through, make a tick mark. I think you can see it right there. So we made a scratch mark from here down onto the bearing, just like a timing mark on an engine. And I do it on 2 spots. I did it over here as well. So we've got 2 marks to line up. Our third center mark is the actual bearing bolt, adjustment bolt. So if that's on your mill, some of the older ones didn't have it, but the newer ones all do. That's going to keep your space as well. So we just bring everything back in the way it was originally. Okay, Dan, go ahead. Okay, now we pull our bolts out. Now these bearings actually pivot inside the housing. So this is your bearing and this is your housing. As you can see, it's still staying there, but with this all apart, that will turn in there. So I'm going to push down on this pulley and kind of pull up on the other side. It's probably not going to move because they're tight. So now we need your screwdriver and your mallet. And this is normal because they should be tight. Where's your big screwdriver over there? Right here. So now come right to the center of your bearing, and there's a little space in there. Go ahead and tap that screwdriver in, Dan. Tap it. And that'll get that to move down a little bit. See how that's opening up? Just pry right down. Now you got a little space. If you got a bar, we'll pry that down with a bar. There you go. Now the bearing is down free away from the frame. So now you can take your band wheel belt right out from underneath there. Your old one's off. To put your new one on, slide it back over the bearing. Set it back on the wheel. And we can pull this right back up. Watch your fingers. Just give it a good tight yank. Now we're going to reinstall our bolts. Right there, tap that over. Your bearing system. There you go. Slides there. Go that way a little bit. Tap your bearing that way. This way. Yep, there you go. Okay, bolts are back in, nuts and washers on them, tighten them back and snug them up just so that the wheel can't move around. Make sure your thick washer goes back against the bearing, lock washer on top of that, then your nut. And when you retorque these get retorqued to 87 foot-pounds. If you don't have a torque wrench, I guess you'll have to use your best judgment and go with that. So now, right at this point, we can realign the bearing back to our tip marks and make sure that it's up against that bolt. So we'll tap everything back in straight, tap it over there where it belongs. Then we can go ahead and snug her back up good and tight. Once you get it tight, you can go ahead and check your tick marks again. Make sure that we're on line. They lined up. Looks good. Okay, now we can run our band wheel belt back on. So the best way to do that, get one tool and put in here as a stop, run your band wheel against it, start right on the bottom, and run it right on like a tire, like a bicycle tire. A little soap and water helps sometimes when you're putting on your new ones. As you can see, he's going to run that around. Try 3 times, do your circle. That way you get that belt seated properly because it stretches, so you don't want one stretch point and make a high spot. Once you get that done, slide your screwdriver out. If there's a little bump there, just take your mallet and do a little tapping on it. It'll bring it right into place. Okay, now everything's back in line. You got your new band wheel tire on. Another thing I wanted to go over quickly while I'm in this video is if your mill blade was left tight overnight, you've made a flat spot on this side of your band wheel. If that happens, your band blade will start bouncing and jumping. You'll see your scale stick vibrating violently. And this ain't just for Hudson, this is for all band mills with wheel tires. So if that happens, take your blade off in the same manner. You don't have to loosen your bearing, but take the screwdriver and go under that band wheel belt and stretch it out the way it should be, like we just installed it. Put your screwdriver under, spin it around about 3 times and get that even back out. That'll prevent you from breaking blades and causing more damage to your mill. So, any questions on that? We're going to do another quick video on that as well, but I just wanted to throw that in for you while you're at this point. So now we can go ahead and put the drive belt back on. And that goes on simply by running it back on just like we ran it off. On your motor first. Go on the bottom and just run it up and it goes right on and the tension should be good. So there we have it. We've already changed the band wheel belt. It probably took us less than 15 minutes. So we're doing great and that's a good tip and I hope everybody can get something out of this video. Thank you.